What is going on out there, peeps? Okay, so it looks like the dinar rate is in review. That's right. So look, Mikey sent me an article this morning, or actually probably could have been last night. I'm not sure. You guys, just a quick reminder: we do have a Facebook group with the same name as the YouTube channel. So I will leave a link in the description. Feel free to come and join us. All right. So let's get into what's going on here because this is kind of interesting. This first paragraph repeats itself. So the National Business Council calls for the review of the exchange rate based on imports our impact of the oil price decline. So the council said in a message to the news, the dinar rate exchanged against foreign currency through the currency sell window for obligation opposed itself due to the circumstances that Iraq is going through, which were unfortunate, interpreted in the different ways it to distort the facts, going to say, and we are not surprised by such responses, skepticism, and accusations, as we have become accustomed to it as a private sector to marginalize and underestimate our role. And this wrong behavior is what Iraq to our donors because of, I'm sorry, I'm reading exactly like it says, homogeny and democracy in the government sector that's failed over 17 years of managing economic files. So let's see what they have to say here. We are hoping for a direct dialogue with the decision-making makers to discuss our proposal to find solutions to address the gaps that we need most in these difficult circumstances. The council stated that the socio-economic organization that process field and theoretic capabilities and expertise and can express opinions and advice in all Iraq state institutions to correct paths wherever they are found. The council pointed out in reference to a candle in a message about the theory of inflation and its repercussions and the increase of poverty rate of 20% of the oppressed people who lie below the poverty line and enjoy the few with wealth. He believes that the dialogue is an affirmation that the wrong policies of successive governments after the year 2003 in managing the economy created a large gap in the standard of living between the elected few and the majority of the people who suffer from poverty, neglect due to corruption. Okay, so we talked about this. We've seen articles where they were talking about devaluing the currency and that affects the poor people. So let me kind of scroll down where we're at. He stressed the importance of setting the right price and strategy and implementing them to upgrade the industrial and agricultural realities and other economic sectors while providing climates for the growth of the private sector and involving it in the economic decisions with a real fight against corruption and improving the investment environment will provide hundreds of thousands of job opportunities and thus reduce the protection network to unimportant levels. And this is in the place of all the country. Okay, so here's what I want to say real quick. I remember, you guys, I told you when Dr. Shabibi was in office, before they signed the Paris Agreement, he was upset about what he saw. They had to agree to allow the IMF and World Bank to help set their economical policies. He did not like them. He said, although this is great for inflation, he says it does not allow, the low rate would not allow an opportunity for Iraq to grow economically. And he said it would benefit the globalists, is what he was saying. So he tried to walk out of the deal, and it was called back, and then went ahead and signed the Paris Agreement. So he was saying then that these policies were not good for people. Okay, so he also saw that the change in the exchange rate has nothing to do with the process of printing the currency, and we do not need to recall its disadvantages. Mixing the paper from the economic scripts and printing the currency in an ill-conceived manner and without cover will lead to inflation. We do not demand that for security, not from afar, but rather this process on its own terms and conditions. So, what did he say? He also asked about what the acquisition on which the central bank relied on providing the exchange rate with the number. So the exchange rate right now is at $1 for 1,190 dinars. Knowing that the number of neighboring countries exporting to Iraq have floated their currencies against the price of the dollar, why do we cling to the fixation of the exchange rate and not allow it to change slightly to achieve additional imports into the state treasury while increasing the ability of the domestic products to complete its growth. This is what I was telling you about. If they raise the rate, remember we were talking about this. I was saying this. Look, here's the problem. They have to change the rate. And I was saying that they were talking about somewhere between 113, 134 is what they were saying. It's a sweet spot. But after talking to my friend said, I thought about this. He said, Iraq has nothing, Lee. They have nothing. What they need to do is reinstate the 322 rate, increase their purchasing power, so they can start importing the things that they need to start rebuilding their country. All right. So I liked what he was saying. That might be the direction they're going into. But let's see. The job of selling the currency is not one of the duties of the central bank, explaining that it was recognized by the governor of the central bank, who confirmed the Ministry of Finance request to exempt it from commission. He presented a 3-stage proposal to review the exchange rate pricing on the basis of the impact of the oil price drop, while setting priorities for the import of raw materials for local industries. See, this is what I'm talking about. I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to increase the rate. And they're going to increase the rate enough to start bringing in stuff that they're going to need. As for the second stage, it requires study the exchange rate of the manufactured and exporting countries to Iraq in pricing the dollar against him, which included in the development of industries and agriculture locally based on the standard situation for the purpose of fulfilling the market need of imported goods with locally produced goods. He also stressed that setting of priorities for the import of raw materials for local industries, and warned that what he called black money, the sale of transfers of currency, these foundations on which our mission and appealed. Okay, I know, sorry guys, I'm reading exactly like I see it. As for the third stage, it concerns the tax and customs duties, and the council said the central bank still apologized for doing it, as it is not one of them of its tasks. He concluded, why did the bank not apologize for selling the currency, which is one of the tasks of the ministries of finance? Okay, so look, again, I said this already in the past that this needed to be done. It's nice to see that the article is supporting that. I will leave a link in the description for you guys to just follow. So what it comes down to is what we discussed. I told you I'd seen some minutes between the IMF with the Central Bank of Iraq. They were meeting with the officials, the government of Iraq. And the government of Iraq wanted their exchange rate reinstated at 322 is what they were saying. And the IMF, along with the Central Bank of Iraq, was saying, no, that would be too big of a shock to the economy. And they wanted something somewhere around $1.13 to $1.34. And the reason is they wanted a sweet spot. They wanted it to be high enough where they had more purchasing power, but they wanted it low enough where they could be competitive against other countries importing and exporting. So to me, that made a lot of sense. I know a lot of people were wanting more than that, and I thought that's what the rate would be. I have talked about this with my friend. He is an economist. He teaches. This guy's a big dog right now. He's doing adjuncting over in Stanford. And when we were talking about it, he agreed that this is where the rate would be. Then all of a sudden, about a month later, he comes back and goes, I've been rethinking about what you and I were talking about. Now, mind you, this guy does not have Dinar. We were just shooting a you-know-what. Anyways, he said, I've been thinking about this. He goes, Iraq has, their whole country has been war-torn for a long time. They don't have a lot of things right now. You have protesters. You have corruption in there. The country has been waiting to rebuild itself for quite some time. They don't have anything that they're really exporting. He says, I don't want to say nothing, but not anything that they have to worry about a higher rate exchange and not being competitive with other countries. He said, in fact, it makes sense to him that they do get reinstated at the 322 for the sole purpose of having so much purchasing power that they could start importing all the things they need to rebuild the country. He said, had their economy been more like Vietnam, which are already up, it's already established, it's already strong, he goes, a 322 rate would really hurt them. He says, but since they don't have anything right now, it makes sense for them to move over to the $3.22 rate, get it reinstated, and then start purchasing all the materials needed from other countries to rebuild in Iraq. Maybe sometime later down the line, they lower it a little bit and then allow the free market to take over. That's what he was suggesting. And I thought, well, that made sense to me. And then all of a sudden, about 2 or 3 weeks after that, we seen a letter in an article that was written by an economist out of Iraq say the same exact thing as my friend is. He goes, look, messing with the rate would not be a good idea. He says, but in the case that Iraq has nothing, and you guys see me do the video on this, where the Iraq has nothing, it makes sense to reinstate the rate. It does, so that they have more purchasing power. He says it's not really going to affect the economy because they don't have anything really. So if they got the Iraqi dinar to increase its purchasing power, it would allow them to be able to buy a lot more goods and have it imported into the country so that they can get everything that they need to start rebuilding the country. Okay? They have a lot of other resources other than oil. They have a lot of opportunity to expand in other areas that can help them economically, besides just relying on oil as their only form of revenue. But it looks to me like somebody else is picking up on this, or whoever this is, the article is. Sorry, I read it word for word, and sometimes, you got the way it's translated in English doesn't say it exactly in the right way. You know what I mean? So nonetheless, it looks like it's going to be reviewed. This looks like what we were hoping for. They talked about if they lower the rate, the guy in the article that you guys see me read, they said the same thing that agreed with my friend, that if they lower the rate, it would be detrimental to Iraq. It would devastate the poor. So somebody who's getting, let's say, $1 million dinars for welfare, I'm just using that as a term, or I say they're getting $1 million for welfare, and they're able to go out and buy this. If you decrease the value, what it does is it decreases their holdings. In other words, it makes it less valuable. And so it makes it harder for them to survive off of it because the cost of goods won't reflect that in there. So if they had more purchasing power and, it would take less dinars for them to buy more, then this would be good for the Iraqi people. I think I'm wording it slightly wrong, but I remember the article going on to say reducing the rate of the Iraqi dinar would only affect the poor. It would hurt the poorest of the poor people. It would not hurt them. Increasing the rate gives them more purchasing power. This allows them to get a lot more for the currencies that they're getting, is basically what they were saying. All right, so let's hope that this is what we've been waiting for. That's what's going on right now. It looks like the Iraqi dinar rate is going to be reviewed. So cross your fingers. All right, you guys? All right, you guys, if you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. All right, I'll catch you in this afternoon.